Welcome, podcasty time. Yay. Um, this week we're going to be discussing a very interesting topic because we're going to make fun of people that by, or a person that by means I'm not really allowed to make fun of. So bear with
If
me
you're
here.
not if you're not allowed to make fun of him, then I'm really not allowed to make fun of him. But I don't think judging on if I should make someone fun of someone based on their pay grade is allowed because it's more
It's
of
not
a
so much
common
the pay
sense
grade.
intelligence thing.
It's not the pay grade so much as this person specifically has so much more experience in the game industry than I do that it's going to come off as quaint that I'm going to be going against what he says. But I don't think what he says has too horribly much to do with just gaming in general and more to do with all electronics. So I think I can let this one, I can get away with this. But first, we're going to be talking about to understand why we're talking about this particular person's blog post. There was the Adam Orth debacle. To know about that, you know the Microsoft has this always on thing floating around them in their next console. And Adam Orth was the man who got on Twitter and started essentially a giant flame war about it. And he has resigned. He's lost his job. And if you're making fun of him, if you're like, "Yay, he lost his job. He's a douchebag," congratulations, you're the bigger douchebag. It's never fun when someone loses their job. It's never something to cheer about unless the guy was, I don't know, molesting kittens, then he this is not good form to celebrate
Uh,
about this.
unless your name pertains to that big ass Penn State scandal, then yeah, you're the bigger douchebag. If you're making fun of someone who was a part of that Penn State scandal, then yes, you have every right to make fun of that sorry bastard. Jerry Sandusky, you son of a bitch.
That makes a good point, but he was molesting boys and people knew about it and didn't say anything. So yes, cheer about them losing their jobs. Adam Orth is he might have said something controversial, but that still um, hurts on his end. Anyway, the person that we've been chatting about, if you are in the know with the industry, you will have heard of this blog post. It's Cliff Bleszinski, Cliffy B, the creative genius behind a lot of early PC games, including the Unreal tournament games, and then the Gears of War franchise
Don't forget Jazz Jackrabbit.
and Jazz Jackrabbit. Very well known within the industry, very well respected within the industry. I respect him as a creative person. But in this blog post, he's discussing what he sees as the future. He says that he sees an always on future approaching fast. And I kind of agree with him on that, in that I see an always on future being the future, just not that I don't think it should be coming fast if it is. But he's fine with that. He's fine to have that opinion. That's sure. But so along the things he said, he started saying things that just he mentioned Diablo 3 and how it sold 12 million copies, and he said if it wasn't always on, it would have sold half that because of piracy. And that's just a number pulled out of his ass. There is nothing that indicates that people will pirate if they don't buy something. Um, there is nothing to say that the game would have been pirated more. Now, obviously, there are things to say that if the game were piratable, people would have pirated it, and people actually have pirated Diablo 3. That's the thing. That's the thing here that doesn't make sense with him saying that. It has been pirated, but there are proxy servers for the thing. So this thing is fairly well pirated. So he's just pulled that number out of his ass, and that's, now note this is a blog post. He's not like writing up something for a newspaper or like doing some kind of court order. So it's okay for him to be wrong about this, but that's it. He is most likely wrong. Cutting the sales figures in half is just stupid.
Can I be the guy that asks?
Go for it.
Because I don't know the exact number. I haven't even seen numbers. But how many copies would you say have been pirated?
I haven't
roughly?
seen the numbers, but based on 12 million, and I would say at least half of it has been pirated. So there's what there I'd say there's 18 million people who have at least tried to play it, and but again, that's how the numbers show is that the more popular a game is, the more often it's pirated. It doesn't show the no study shows that piracy cuts into game sales because people who pirate generally wouldn't buy the game in the first place.
So you're essentially it's 18 million overall, in a sense.
Probably.
18 million overall. You cut about a third of that out because of
Mhm. And note these people aren't
piracy.
costing Blizzard any money because they have pirated copies of the game. They still can't connect to the Blizzard network, so they're not costing Blizzard any bandwidth or anything.
And they're not paying for subscriptions. They're still losing those sales.
But there's nothing to say that they were sales. If someone pirated Diablo, and given how long it took for them to be able to get these proxy servers up for Diablo, it's worth it to say that those people might have or probably would have never bought the game in the first place.
And
They either don't have the money or they weren't willing to spend the money.
yeah,
Bleszinski.
my thing with it is that when you're talking about the piracy of that game, here's the thing. I played a pirated copy of it at a friend's house, and I will openly admit that because you know what I did? I liked it so much just as a playing it by myself because I didn't party with anyone. I played completely on my own. I wanted to play it more. So when I got home, I got a copy of it and it was a paid for copy of it. So it wasn't something that I pirated. There's a lot of people that'll go out there and be like, okay, I've heard mixed reviews on this. I'm not sure how it's going to go. So they'll pirate a copy of it. But if they think it's worthy of their money after they've pirated it, they will go out and buy it. I have a lot of friends that do that.
Hmm.
So saying, oh, so many copies were pirated isn't a real thing. Because, yeah, that many copies could have been pirated. But how many of those people that pirated it first, how can you go and say, oh, they didn't even bother to buy it? Well, they probably did eventually if they really enjoyed it. If they didn't, guess what? They pirated it, maybe played an hour or two and said, oh, this is crap, never mind, and deleted it.
Hmm.
And
That's
want to know
another
what would have
possibility.
happened normally? They would have just returned it otherwise.
Mhm.
So that
And
would have
think
been
on it this way: the way the demo for the game works is having not paid for the game, you still get to play on their servers using their bandwidth. So, if anything, people who pirate the game to try it out and then choose whether to buy it or then are actually kind of saving Blizzard some money. But I want to move on to this next issue he brought up. He made a general statement, just the way it was worded makes me feel that Cliffy thinks that all, or at least a vast majority of gamers are pirates and thieves. And to that I have to say, Cliffy, please. The Gears of War thing was your fault, your company's fault. You put the game out a year late, and it was an inferior version to the Xbox version. It was a very crappy port. Year late, crappy port, got pirated all to hell. It makes sense. It's your fault that people didn't buy it. I I just want to put that out there because if you would have put the time to get it out faster, or if it had been a good port, you might have seen better sales. And after that happened, he didn't put out any more Gears things. I think Epic seems to have forgotten how to make a PC game because they seem to have abandoned the PC. But having said that, I don't think anyone has a response to that. Um,
the
a
main thing
quote. Oh,
that
go ahead.
sorry, the main thing that I'll put there is when you take a game and you have a port of it.
Hmm.
If they release roughly the same time or potentially a year later or something along those lines, if your original game is better than your port, more people are going to buy and access the original port rather than go for the PC pirated or PC port, or
Yeah.
ported copy of the game. I
Mhm.
won't say PC exclusive because there are games out there that go from one console to the
Exactly.
next. They just
And it
get
makes sense if you
over.
think about it this way. This is a pirate's perspective. I've heard this one before. I don't exactly agree with it, but because this some person I talked to about the Gears of War thing because they pirated Gears when it came out, and this was what they had to say. They pirated Gears of War not because they didn't respect Cliff Bleszinski or Epic, but because they didn't respect the lack of effort that was put into making a good port. They didn't feel they could pay for something as clearly half-assed as that game was.
Now, granting, I can say that that's not a good enough excuse, at least in my opinion.
No, it isn't. It's if you think it's half-assed, don't play it.
Yeah, that's the one thing that's definitely true. Is if you think it's half-assed, don't play it, and don't be that guy that goes, "I'm just gonna fucking pirate it because." But I digress.
Hmm?
Go on.
But here's a quote from the blog, a direct quote. This is verbatim. Remember when Microsoft made the decision to allow broadband on Xbox Live? It was a bold move back then. Broadband penetration wasn't anywhere near what it is now, and yet the march of progress continued. There's a difference, Cliffy, between that and now. That was just broadband. You could still play your Xbox games without Xbox Live. People did it for years. And as far as I know, Xbox Live didn't really expand until Halo 2 and then going into the days of the Xbox 360. So it was fine that they only allowed people with broadband onto Xbox Live because if you even without the use of it, you could still play your games. What we're talking about here now is the if your internet were to go down or your internet wasn't fast enough, say, or let's say the servers went down. That's the big one. Is what the servers for Microsoft tend to go down quite a lot, and if they're down, you don't get to play your games in an always-on system, which doesn't hurt us as much because we can like pick up a Game Boy or something. But there's a lot of people out there who will only have this console as their main gaming console and will be screwed if they can't connect to those servers.
Yeah, it's like I have my main gaming console, like actual homebound console, was only my Xbox until my birthday this last year when my parents bought me an actual gaming PC. That was my gift this year. And it was technically only half the cost of the PC was my gift. I'm paying the other half because it was expensive.
Mhm.
And it's the thing that my PC, though, will last longer than any of the next few generations of uh,
Consoles.
actual consoles because I can upgrade it. It's easily upgraded, and the parts will be much cheaper than buying a new console every 4 to 5 years when they come out with a new, slightly better version of the same damn thing.
That, and if any games decide they want to go always on, or if Steam or Origin decided they wanted to go always on, you can always fall back on your back catalog without going to an older machine. Um,
Exactly.
Now, the
And it's the
next bit
thing.
of the blog, Cliffy states the internet will be better in the future, so always on shouldn't be as bad. And I'm going to go. I'm going to keep going back to this point. It's not about the internet connection. I don't care about my internet connection. My internet connection very rarely goes down. But what goes down all the time? The Diablo 3 servers, the Xbox Live servers, the
PSN,
PSN servers, the
Sim
SimCity
City,
servers are probably down at this moment. The Xbox Live servers were down yesterday.
and people
That's what we
For
don't.
an absolutely hilarious reason, but I think we'll discuss that another time.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
that might.
people flipped shit when it went down. And it's like, oh my god, if this is the case of, if this goes down while we're trying to play the new Xbox, oh my god, it's not, we're gonna be playing video games. And it's like, okay, just breathe and pick up either your PC or your handheld
Mhm.
and
Except that some of
breathe.
those people can't do that, which is It's the thing. I don't care about protecting myself. I might get this new console even if it has always on because I'm probably going to have a PlayStation 4 or Wii U, my PC. But there's going to be plenty of people who, for one reason or another, only have that, and it's them I'm trying to protect. They're the
Yeah.
ones who are most likely to get screwed.
And it's understandable and completely rational to want to protect those people. But as we stated, like right at the beginning of this almost entire rant and tangent, most of this is just rumor where
Exactly. This
this
is,
thing is concerned.
and I
But the
want to
other
cover
thing
that at
is
the rumor part at the end
Yes.
of the
the
podcast.
thing to think about, even if it is a rumor, is that this is something that a lot of companies are starting to lean towards to stop piracy. So it is something that's going to happen eventually across the board. But it's like, why not do that with games? Like having always on gaming servers, specifically like the always on DRM for like the Call of Duty servers or for specific games that have a huge multiplayer
Exactly. I'd
base
rather
or a
games
huge
go to
fan
always
base.
on than the console
Exactly.
itself go to always on.
Because then if they have a pirated copy, which could potentially have mods and things like that, then if it's an always on DRM, they can't play it online, so they can play it by themselves.
Hmm.
And it's like, okay, fine. If you want to play, like, for all of you out there that mod your Skyrim and your Fallout and all those single player games, you have at it. You're awesome. I love some of the videos that come out of that. But the people that are using the mods in Gears of War and Halo and Call of Duty to better themselves and kind of ruin the multiplayer experience for casual players like myself, dude, you need to go and return your Xbox and learn some freaking manners, is my personal opinion.
No,
And like, are you flipping kidding me? It's the thing that, like, I don't know how to really say it other than the gaming companies and the console companies are becoming very, very selfish in a way when it comes to how their things are used and run compared to how players are going to use them. Like, there are people who don't have a stable internet connection. So if you do always on DRM, you're going to lose a percentage of the people that are going to buy your games because it's like, hey, I live in a military town. There are still places in this military town and military area where there's no or little to no internet connection.
Hmm. And now I've always said this about piracy, and I'm going to bring it up here one more time. Or I don't think I've said it on this podcast, but I'm going to bring it up here. Um, Piracy is not a problem with the people so much as it is a problem with the service. Piracy is almost always a service problem of anything: piracy of movies, piracy of games, piracy of music. It's a problem with the service that goes about getting it. And with some of these games, piracy is that the game, for the content you're getting, costs too much. Now, as someone who likes Gears of War, I don't play the multiplayer of them anymore. So the single player experience, at least of Gears of War 3, was not worth $60 for me. It was not nearly long enough to be worth $60. Now, did I pirate it? No. But I could understand someone who might have if they're not willing to spend $60 for something that they don't feel is worth it. And if you're playing a pirated copy, then you don't get access to the multiplayer anyway, outside of some amazing custom servers. But back to the blog and moving on, the next part, this one really annoyed me because of how I don't know if I had to read this paragraph multiple times, and I'm not going to quote it verbatim because it's a fairly lengthy thing. But it's he went on a little mini tirade on the iPad and how it's a great example of always on being used great with all of its apps and its movies and everything else and yada yada. But the problem is, Cliffy, the iPad isn't always on. You can turn it off.
Sorry.
You can put it into airplane mode and watch the movie you just downloaded while on the airplane or on a train or wherever you don't have internet access. It's I understand that the iPod is or the iPad is great. It really is, but it's not always on. And his next point was him saying that maybe we should do checking in, like we mentioned earlier here, is that if instead of doing always on, just every once in a while the server were to check in, and Steam does this in a way. Some of your Steam games, if you keep playing in offline mode and don't check in with the servers after a week or so, it will want to check in and it won't play. That is fine because that doesn't require the servers to have 100% uptime. We already do that, and I completely agree with you there. That is the way we should go. Um, Now, another verbatim quote is, "I'd rather live in a world where someone." This is going back to the Adam Orth thing. He says, "I'd rather live in a world where someone can slip up, say something that the world doesn't agree with, and not have the collective internet lynch mob up their ass." Now, I want to say that we do live in a world where you can say what you want, and we should, at least here in America, we do, and we should have it worldwide. But that doesn't mean you should not have the lynch mob up your ass if you say something incredibly stupid. What Adam Orth said, he deserved what he got. He did not deserve to be fired. But and I am sad that he was fired. He should have had, say, a punitive action, his Twitter, like not allowed to tweet anymore, and yada yada. They should have shown that they're not willing to put up with idiots. They shouldn't have. They I don't think they should have fired him. But that does not mean you can hold the internet responsible for him getting fired. The internet got angry because he specifically made them angry. If This is like if the KKK gets up and starts burning a cross, we shouldn't be able to shut them down for doing that. No. If they're doing something we find offensive, we put them down. That's how democracy works. Now, we have the First Amendment in place. He was allowed to say it. It's still out there. Everyone knows what he said. And there may be people who agree with him. Obviously, you seem to agree with him. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't get angry.
Yeah, and it's one of those things to where I can give another quote. I can't remember the exact quote, but when one of the politicians made a mention to rape, and if we go with the whole we shouldn't have the internet lynch mob up their ass about it, then what do we have?
Exactly.
We have a quelled non-democracy kind of thing going.
Exactly. If you're not allowed to get angry when someone says something stupid, then it's the whole vocal minority thing. The vocal minority would be a lot more powerful than it already is if we didn't speak up against them when they said things we don't like. And the last quote I want to make from his blog is, "Well-behaved people rarely make history. Deal with it." I originally wanted to make a long list of well-behaved people, but you can make the list yourself. You can automatically think of 50 people who were well-behaved that made history, so you don't have to deal with it. I think that was a stupid way to end the blog, because really it's just the amount of vitriol that came out of this blog was just disgusting. Like I said, I still respect Cliffy, but I do question whether I should, or I don't, I shouldn't say I question it. I know that he is really good as a creative force, but this blog, I haven't read any of his posts, but this blog shows me that as a thinking man, he leaves some lacking, and I might read some more of his stuff to see what he does, but this blog has really rubbed me the wrong way. And now I want to move on, and we've gotten some leaks about the next Xbox. We're just going to call it the 720 until we get an official name. It's the way rumors work and the way the naming convention has gone thus far. And supposedly it's going to be like a um, competitor to the Apple TV and the Google TV. In a way, and that you're going to be able to plug your cable box into it, then route it to the TV so that it'll put an overlay on the TV and all of that. And if that's true, then that could be where all of this always-on stuff was coming from in the first place, because you would require a connection to their servers to use that functionality. So if that's where the always-on is going, that is completely fine. I'm totally behind that. I don't, though it does disturb me a bit, because normally when something leaks about a console, you hear the most important part of the console get leaked. And what we've seen coming out of the 720 is kind of disturbing because we have not heard anything about its capability to play games yet. All we're hearing is its capability to go against the Google TV and the Apple TV, and that is not what I want. I want a gaming console. I have a a cable box, and it works fine.
I have a cable box and Netflix, and I'm set up with that. It's the thing. I've loved the Xbox because it was simple, it was something I understood, and it was something that was stable when it came to its servers. For the most part, it didn't go down nearly as much as PlayStation did when I was trying to decide which one am I going to get. And it's the thing that I don't care about, oh, we're gonna have Apple TV and Google TV and the Amazon Prime like crap, and we're gonna have an internet browser and you can get on Facebook and Twitter. You know what? Why do I need Facebook and Twitter on a flipping console when most of the time most people who have a console is sitting right next to a computer, or they have their phone or a tablet where they can log on to it right there. Same thing with the internet. I liked the Bing search ad onto the Xbox 360 because now it's like, oh, I remember this one word that was in the title of this game that I was playing at a friend's. Let's see if I can look it up. And then you don't have to go through manually through every single category. Was it an indie game, or was it this, or was it this? Like,
Yeah, I just want
I
to end on this
I just
last
want a
bit
gaming
though,
console.
because you mentioned the servers going down. Remember, like people do not like this always on thing. So if you're considering it for your games, remember this. Remember what Anonymous did to the servers of um, PlayStation Network um, a couple years back. Remember how long those servers were down. Now imagine you have a console that is doing things that, say, Anonymous doesn't like, and they do not seem to like this always on one bit. Now imagine your servers being down for that long. Your console, no one can play it for that long. And that should tell you why this is not a good idea. If you like the video, hit the like button. Comment, tell us if you have a differing opinion to ours. Come to the support of Cliff Bleszinski if you want to. I know people will. Hit the subscribe button. Say bye, Eddie.
Bye, buddy. I had more stuff to say.